Hey everyone, and welcome to Big Red Homestead. Today, Nebraska, Wisconsin, X factors, keys, predictions. We're going through it all. What it's going to take for Nebraska to pull off a big road win. I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be a fun one. Caleb, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. Another year, another chance to beat Wisconsin. It's been easy for us to beat Wisconsin in these Big Ten West as we reflect back. And I'm just excited for yet another win.
Yeah, stacking them
on
up,
the road.
Right? Yeah, 100%.
Super easy.
Barely an inconvenience. With that said, let's start off broad picture here. Wisconsin's entering into this game on what is now a 3-game losing streak. Ohio State, Indiana, and Northwestern. It's been an interesting season for them because of injuries. Tanner Mordecai has been injured and Braylon Allen was injured. And so they've had a rocky road here these last few weeks. So that's why I think some of these results are a little deceiving. They're 5-5 at this point. And so this is a game where both teams are entering in looking for bowl eligibility.
One must win.
By rule, one does have to win. Like last week, Northwestern snapped a 14-game away losing streak by beating Wisconsin in Madison. It's been a mixed bag of ugly performances. They lost to Indiana 2 weeks ago. And so it's been tough out there without Tanner Mordecai and without Braylon Allen. We're the lucky winners of the injury lottery. They got to come back and be 100% this week. And PFF right now has them graded as power ranked as the 54th best team, graded as the 58th best team. Nebraska is a 66th power ranked team. And which Nebraska does still have a 56% chance to win a bowl game, by the way, according to PFF, which, or to make a bowl game. So, we'll take those odds. Hey. Speaking of odds, coming into this game, right now, Wisconsin is favored at about 6.5 or 5.5, depending on which site you're looking at. So it is pretty heavy favorites coming into this game with a pretty small over-under at 36.5. So, the odds aren't great when it comes to a Nebraska win off the rip here. So let's start on the offensive side here, talk about this team. And of course, we can probably start here with Tanner Mordecai and your thoughts here on this Wisconsin offense.
They've been kind of rocky, but that's because their offense has been inconsistent because they missed their two best players. They're 102nd in points per play and 84th in yards per play, which is exciting for our defense, as we've been one of the better defenses in the country. Looking at Tanner Mordecai, when he has played, he is the 35th graded QB in the country out of 162.
Yeah, he's looked nice, man.
He's looked very solid. He's 32nd QB in the country when under pressure, according to them, and 37th under a clean pocket. So it makes sense. The caveat, the star, the little bit exciting thing for Nebraska and our defense is he's the 139th QB when blitzed. This is the opportunity for Nebraska. Obviously, we like to blitz. We blitz a lot. And if that's the case, this is exciting where we can get the worst version of Tanner Mordecai. That's the hope.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Obviously, Mordecai, he's extremely dangerous. He's got the arm talent downfield. He's extremely accurate. And I would say he probably thrives best in those 8 to 15 yard ranges on comeback routes and really puts the ball in place. But he definitely has the ability to throw downfield as well. And his legs are really dangerous. He has legit top end speed. And we saw that throughout multiple games in which he ripped off big time runs. He's just a really balanced quarterback. And so when he's played, he's looked basically really good besides the Iowa game where he got hurt in. And so he is coming off of a broken right hand that he suffered in the Iowa game. And so Mordecai against Northwestern was a game time decision and barely practiced, or was limited practice throughout the week. And so it's surprising how well he played considering how limited practice he had. And it obviously did affect Wisconsin. And in that game, again, they didn't have Braylon Allen. And so when Mordecai had to have been the only man this year, it hasn't been as efficient. But early on in the year, he was nice. And I think overall, now that he's healthy, I think you have to be worried about how good he could be. And probably see a Mordecai similar more to Purdue and Rutgers earlier in the year.
What's really shocking for Tanner Mordecai is he has over 1,300 pass yards, completes 65% of his throws, but he only has 3 touchdowns. He has a 3-to-3 touchdown to interception ratio, which has been which is why their points per play, and that's kind of been kept lower. They really haven't been able to find the end zone that well through the passing game. Locke had 5 to 1, actually had a much better with 5 passing touchdowns, 1 interception ratio. Their backup QB, but a much lower completion percentage. But I think that's really interesting too. Like throughout the season, I mean, with most of the wide receivers there, they really weren't able to, like, Mordecai hasn't really found the end zone passing the ball.
Which, I mean, at the same time probably also comes to play for, you have Braylon Allen. So it's like, if you're near the goal line, what do you got to do? You know, so that also comes into play for sure, right? I mean, they have two running backs they really trust there. So obviously, Braylon Allen is the highlight here. When he's healthy, he's unstoppable. His balance, his power, his agility. I mean, there's times where it's like any normal running back would get 7 or 8 and he rips off 15 or 18. And it seemed like at times in the red zone, he'd just be like, I want this one. And he would just rip it off. And you're like, oh my word, like that should never be a touchdown. And
there's times where like he's dead to rights. Both of his legs are wrapped up and he somehow spins out of it, breaks 2 tackles and gets in the end zone. And you're like, there's just nothing you can do. He's so strong, so powerful, fast. It's just a problem. It'll be a problem for us all game now that he's back.
Right. So,
and
I mean,
Chez Malusi's is hurt. That's the other thing is he's been out he had a season-ending injury, so we won't have to see him.
Exactly. Allen, he only played 3 snaps against Northwestern. They basically ran him out there. He, was telling him he was healthy, and then the coaching staff was like, you are not healthy. And so then they pulled him. So we're assuming we're going to see a nearly fully 100% healthy Braylon Allen. Perfect for this game. And with that said, like in the passing game as well, they have some like legit playmakers and a really balanced offense. And we've seen them really get Braylon Allen involved as well in the passing game, which makes sense. You're trying to find your playmakers chances to touch the ball as well. Like in the passing game, not only is Braylon Allen catching the ball, but they have a trio of 3 really, really solid receivers here that have been making plays.
Will Pauling has been their leading receiver this season with almost 600 receiving yards, averaging 10 yards per catch. His long was 33 yards. He has 3 touchdowns on the season, which again, there hasn't been that many passing touchdowns. So it makes sense that their slot guy has the most. He has 3. Also with Green and then Chimere Dike, who had been the star. Again, another guy who had gotten hurt for them this season. He has 282 yards. His average is the highest of the wide receivers at 17.6. And he only has a lone touchdown on the season. But they just have a really solid wide receiver core. And another surprise too is Braylon Allen actually has 25 catches on the season for 104 yards. No touchdowns, but again, he's been more of a pass catching option for them than in years past. Something that we have to be aware of, especially in those short yard situations. They might just run him out on a short route to convert the first down instead of just handing him off the ball. But yeah, I'd say Pauling has been the most impressive. He's just a sure-handed guy, gets open, can run routes well. The sure-handed guy that's going to get those first downs and going to be a real target.
Agreed. He was extremely reliable and efficient. And I really liked how he ran routes. I mean, there was a few moments where he basically changed up his route and it seemed like him and Mordecai were really on the same page and they were able to connect and find each other. I mean, he has 56 receptions on the year. So, I mean, he has been hauling them in, obviously, compared to Nebraska, which, he's not even fair to compare to us. But, our leading receivers,
is that more catches than our whole team?
It's got to be close at this point. Yeah, 106 for our team. So he has over half the receptions of Nebraska. He's the guy that moves the chains for him, and on third down, like who are they looking towards? It's Will Pauling to make a play. And like I said, those comeback routes, he is absolutely dangerous on those comebacks. And the timing there with Mordecai seems to be right on point. So that's been really interesting to watch. Obviously, this year, their offense in general isn't like offenses of the past for Wisconsin. They're out of shotgun. They're running the ball. They're sending guys in motion. They're really switching it up this year, obviously, with a new offensive coordinator in town, with Luke Fickell in town as well. And so it's been interesting to see how this offense has evolved a little bit. And maybe that's also why they've had some struggles at times. But, either way, they still move the ball pretty well. And when they're fully healthy, they're going to be dangerous, to say the least. And their offensive line is still really solid, not nearly as dominant as some past years. I mean, right now they're 55th in pass blocking efficiency on PFF and graded out around 30th in run blocking grades. So it's nothing like the dominant O-lines of Wisconsin's past, but regardless, still a really, really solid one. And we've seen the offense be efficient overall, regardless of the offensive line play.
The last thing to mention too, just about Mordecai, is he's actually really fast. And they run a lot of good read option, and they look a little bit like us. So we'll keep this a little bit to later, but yeah, that's something that we have to be definitely concerned about. Is he's good in the read option and on the run, and also for trick plays. They really like the Philly special. They ran it twice against Purdue in a single game.
Yeah, like what?
Once for a 2-point conversion, but Tanner Mordecai will go out there for a pass, and it will be Pauling who throws it. It was Pauling both times who threw that pass. Another thing that Nebraska needs to be concerned of.
Yeah, no doubt. So on the defensive side, this Wisconsin defense is still really, really solid. They're not, again, by no means the dominant defenses of Wisconsin's past at this point. Still, they keep the game in front of them and they make it hard on you. So right now, they're 27th in opponents' yards per game and 19th in opponents' yards per play overall. So they're really doing a good job of keeping it there. And they have a lot of playmakers on this team. The linebacking core is once again highlighted. They're all over the field making plays.
The same Wisconsin defense, that doesn't look too different for them. Their linebacking core is ridiculously impressive. It's the really big reason why they're 12th in opponents' yards per pass. Again, everything just stays in front of them. Hunter Wooler, who had the speech this week talking about how Wisconsin was soft at the reason that he wasn't playing, didn't want to come play there. And, I loved hearing all these things from him, by the way. I hope that shows up again this next week. He has 95 tackles on the season, 2 interceptions and a sack. And he's been really good for them. Again, their whole linebacking core, including some of the guys that they bring in just on, for gadget plays. But Jack Chaney's been good as well. He has the second leading in tackles with 62, and he has 3 sacks and interception. Maimon Najameda, who had an incredible season last year, has also been great. He has 46 tackles and 3 sacks. Just another great player. All these linebackers have made plays and had sacks. It's really tough to pinpoint who is their best, but their leader is Daryl Peterson, who leads the team in sacks with 4.5, and he has been their best graded pass rusher. But opponents just haven't had long passes because they get home. Somebody gets home. It takes a long. Right. It's hard for those longer pass plays to develop unless you're Northwestern last week, and then you just take shots all the time. But besides that, they've been pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, again, like when you have basically 5 guys who are legit players, like CJ Goat as well, who's another edge rusher who just gets home. So you pair him with Njameda, and suddenly this defense is dangerous. And then you have a safety back there like Hunter Waller that covers the field, makes tackles, 95 tackles on the year, is really the Band-Aid for that defense. They're JoJo Domann of this season for sure. And so it's just a really solid defense. I mean, they're not going to blow you away and make all the unbelievable plays, but they can be sneaky, and their secondary makes plays. Like there was a 97-yard pick 6 in the Rutgers game, which was devastating. And overall, like they definitely can find ways to disrupt. Like you said, they're 12th in opponents' yards per pass, so they force you to beat them by 1,000 cuts. They get it done. So just a fun defense to watch for sure, and playmakers all over the field. So let's move on to X factors here. And I mean, I definitely want to start here, obviously talking about Tanner Mordecai. You brought it up earlier, but when it comes to one of the most bizarre stats that I've seen this whole season, the most distinct differences, it's pretty unbelievable. And I'm not even sure how this even happens. So right now, Tanner Mordecai is 6th in the country when not blitzed. 6th in the country graded when not blitzed. Impressive. 139th when blitzed, but yet quite good under pressure. 32nd when under pressure. So it's not about the pressure. It's about the scheme, which is fascinating. And so when it comes to our defense and how we can actually lock them down, obviously Nebraska this year as a defense has been fantastic. 4th in the country in opponents' yards per rush, 22nd in opponents' yards per pass, and so 10th overall in yards per play. When it comes to stopping Tanner Mordecai and getting there, I mean, good news for us is we love to blitz. We love to bring it home. Tony White loves to dial it up. And if there's ever a game we're going to send it, it's going to be a game like this against Tanner Mordecai, where it seems to be Wisconsin's only true weakness on the offensive side. Everything else seems to be really solid. They have a great running back. They have great wide receivers. They have a really respectable offensive line. Mordecai seems to throw the ball great in the pocket. He's good under pressure. The only thing that seems to stop them is third downs and blitzes. And so if we're going to get there, we're going to get home by sending the house and relying on man coverage on the outside. And let's hope we dial it up in this game.
Yeah, I think we will. Last week, we had an insanely impressive defensive performance. Again, that's pushed us into a lot of stats, into that top 10 defense in the country, and in a lot of those stats. And they proved it in a lot of ways. And if we can do it again on the road, again, to get us bowl eligible. The defense, again, we played out of our minds last week, getting multiple turnovers. Something that we're probably going to have to do again if we want to win this game. But yeah, we have to be able to blitz and willing to blitz. And if we know one thing about Tony White is he's willing to risk it all, bet it all on his guys, and he's willing to go down swinging that way. So I'm excited this week. It is going to be a great opportunity for our defense and just another challenge to show that, yes, we are really one of the top defenses in the country. The sum is greater than the parts, because I think individually, Wisconsin has a more talented defense than us. If you just take, NFL draft prospects, in a lot of ways, most of their linebacking core is better than any single one guy. But because of our scheme and how well we've played together as a team, I think that we can be the better defense this game, but it is going to take an incredible performance because our offense is going to do a lot of favors for Wisconsin's defense.
What?
This whole game, as you all know. We had 5 picks last time. Again, shout out Marcus Satterfield, who, for the 3rd straight year is reaching the bottom tier of turnovers per season. I mean, he was 116th the last couple seasons. What his offense, both years at South Carolina, well over 20 turnovers. And here we are yet again at Nebraska doing the same thing. It's a pattern at this point. It's not year one. This is Marcus Satterfield has a long tape. I know Matt Rhule, he said, year one, it's ridiculous. But the thing is, this has been the pattern of Marcus Satterfield these last 3 seasons. So if there is one take on why we should fire Marcus Satterfield, I think it would be because he has not gotten the turnovers under wraps. It has continued to happen. Spencer Rattler was a worse QB last year and has then regained back to a better QB without Marcus Satterfield. His completion percentage went up. His turnovers went down. And also the amount of passing attempts went down as well. So Marcus Satterfield wants to throw the heck out of the ball, which is just not a great...
And good news, we have the best pass offense in the league.
Yeah, we do. We have 3 QBs who are so good at passing. I mean, it's just insane.
Oh, wait, no, we're actually the lowest graded passing offense in all of the country. Love to see that.
So again, it's a little frustrating. I know Matt. So
Marcus Satterfield's an X factor for you.
But he is an X factor because he's loving to cough up the ball and lose this team games. He absolutely. And okay, another comment that Matt Rhule made at the press conference that I'm a little fired up on that I need to talk about. He talked about the corner route to Billy Kemp and how it's a normal call. Yeah, everybody does it at the goal line.
It's a Peyton Manning call.
And then it's a Peyton Manning call, Indy. Okay, yes, it's a Peyton Manning call. But do we have Reggie Wayne or Marvin Harrison? No, we don't. We had Billy Kemp, a 5'8" dude who ran a flat route, a bad route. And again, the execution, it's like, we just didn't execute.
And we have Jebba Purdy.
Yeah, that's terrible reasoning. That doesn't explain anything.
It's a good play. It should have worked.
The play didn't work, so it didn't work. That's not a good reasoning whatsoever. And yes, it was man, and there was only 2 guys there, but we couldn't win. There were bad routes. We couldn't win. To quote Scott Frost, is that better than what we have in the run game? Is the pass game? No, it's not. Of course it's not. Our pass game has been bad all season, and you got to go somewhere else. And so that's why I'm worried. The X factor is we're going to make dumb decisions offensively, call bad plays, turn the ball over. And everybody knows this. It's been the reason why we've lost these games. It's the reason, Michigan State and Maryland included. I can't believe we cost our defense this win, especially in the goal line.
I was going to say the circular reasoning was really funny. He was like, well, if you execute it, it's going to work. I'm like, interesting stuff. Good stuff there.
Nice. Yeah, good. Great explanation.
What are our odds of executing the play? Because I don't think it's very high. So,
if we have Kyle McCord and Marvin Harrison Jr., then run a quarter route to the back pylon. I trust us to do that. Or if we have Drew Aller, but we don't. We have Jebba Purdy, our 3rd string quarterback.
100%. I'm with you, though. I mean, the X factor, turnovers again. When it comes, you can have all the arguments in the world for Nebraska right now, but the final end all be all argument is how many turnovers are we going to have? Because at this point, it's the question. And there's not really any evidence for why we're not going to have at least 3 again. So that's what makes it really, really tough. Obviously, when it comes to how we can potentially attack this Wisconsin defense, there were moments here where we saw Purdue, we saw Rutgers, even though Rutgers struggled. Illinois found ways to convert in the end zone. And one thing I really liked in the Illinois game was how Illinois, it was good to see actually that they actually used a lot of the similar types of red zone plays that we found success in, is these little rub routes to the flats or off tackle reads. finding like legit success there with motion in the red zone. So there are ways to attack this defense and make plays. And so I'm looking for how we can attack the tackles here. It seemed to be the only area where Wisconsin struggled a little bit.
Yes. And on third down, surprisingly.
Right.
They're bad on third
teams
down.
finding success sealing the edges on third down, and running backs were finding ways to rip off these runs here. So we saw a lot of positives in the run game last week for Nebraska. And it's going to come down to how we seal the edges here. And like Nate Borkature finding success like he did last week towards the edges. And you have to block fundamentally against Wisconsin to find success. So that's without a doubt an X factor here when it comes to how we're going to scheme up this offense to get to the edges.
Yeah, I mean, if we can block like Northwestern did, who just played, again, a great, really fundamental game, or even like we did last week against Maryland, that was a really solid rush defense team, right. Top 20 in the country. And we blocked really well. We've actually moved up again in that PFF ratings into the top 30, and it looks like it. Our O-line has really improved this season, which has really been exciting as it's gone along with the different guys.
A surprise to be sure.
Surprise. It is a surprise.
Too bad our quarterback plays only declined.
Yes, it's got worse and worse, slowly delving us into madness.
Yeah.
It's been terrible. But their interior linemen, I don't think they're not as good as Nash or Ty. So,
right.
And I think that's going to be huge too.
Yeah, I was literally just going to say that is the next X factor here. We saw the dominant play that Nash and Ty had last week up the middle. And if we're going to win against Braylon Allen and this Wisconsin defense, is that you have to control the middle here on third down and short. And we're going to have a lot of them in this game. And so we saw a few moments there where nose tackles against Wisconsin just did enough to stand up the center, which forced Braylon to hesitate for just 1 second, which allowed the edge rusher to come from behind and grab Braylon's legs. And it happened a few times on third down where teams got stops. And so if we're expecting one of our safeties to come around the edge and make a play, or maybe it's one of the linebackers like John Bullock to come around and make a play, then you have to win that battle up front with our 3-man front to just create a little bit of hesitation there for Braylon Allen.
No doubt. If we're going to have any chance at winning this game, it's going to start at the rush defense. If our linemen, if those front guys in the box can dominate, that means we'll be able to guard this pass a lot better, to not let Pauling get to us. And then also, again, being able to, spy and watch Mordecai's legs, because that's the final X factor. Is he is fast. I had mentioned it before, but this is the final really X factor of the game. He has running ability. He has top end speed. Tanner Mordecai is an absolute threat in the run game. His legs. Yeah. He has multiple touchdowns this season, big runs, much more dangerous than Talia of last week. Again, I mentioned the read option before, but in scrambles, he is very dangerous. We're going to have somebody keyed in, well, the whole defense, but somebody keyed onto him most of the game, because he is an absolute problem. And a real reason why.
Some real nice QB draws.
Yeah, and he sells them well as. So it's a huge X factor. It might be the biggest one for our defense on this game, is how well can we handle those QB scrambles, those QB draws, because he is fast. And again, they do it at good times as a good counterpunch to them. And he really keeps drives alive with his legs.
Yeah, they don't rely on it heavily, but when they dial it up, it seems to be really effective. He has 30 carries this season for 243 yards when you take away the sacks. And so he's been efficient. 4.7 yards per attempt, 4 rushing touchdowns on the year. That is an X factor. He does have 3 fumbles. So you love seeing that. 2 of them were in that Washington State game. That was pretty devastating for them. So there could be some ways to find that ball and knock it out. And that's what you're hoping to see in a game like this. So with that said, let's get into predictions. Oh boy, Caleb, can this defense keep him in check? What are your thoughts here? Give me the narrative for this game.
Yeah, our defensive line plays insane. We force multiple turnovers. We get some sort of interception. And then we're able to shut down Braylon Allen. We've been one of the best run defenses in the country. And this is our best challenge yet. We have a legit NFL guy who is going to play on Sundays. That is an absolute problem. Can we stop him? How well can our defensive line play? This is a great stamp to seal off that we are a phenomenal defense for the season, to lock out any doubt. If our defense can shut this team down, to hold this team, to less than 13 points. If we can do something like that, again, that's what it's going to take. It's going to take that from our defense, I think, if we're going to want to win. Because our offense, this is as tough a defense as it comes. In the pass game, again, they allow very little on passes. There isn't home run balls. I mean, we saw Northwestern do it a little bit. They were tight coverage, contested catches that Northwestern was able to convert, and some of these other teams were able to convert. And we just really haven't seen a great contested catch rate from any of our wide receivers this season. Right. I really think it's going to come down to the run game. How well can our defense shut this down? Because our offense is going to have a tough time. It's going to be tough sledding. And I think our defense will be able to. I really think that, again, I feel that we can hold them under 20. Again, we can hold yet another team to under 20 points. And I think there's a really good chance we hold them under 14. And I think we're going to have to hold them to 14 or less points to really have a legit chance at this game. But I think our defense is fully capable of doing it. I just think the problem is I don't think our offense can get maybe more than 7. It's just been so bad and so inconsistent. I think I'm predicting us to lose 10-13. We're doing it again.
Right back to the well. Nice. Are you kidding me?
So nice. You see it thrice. 10-13 loss.
Bro, that feels like a little evil to pick us to lose 13-10.
Rip your heart out yet again.
I don't know, man.
It's consistent.
Like, on my end here, it does. The first thought is like, okay, can we actually stop Braylon Allen? Obviously, the worry is that what happens is it looks like the Michigan game, where in the first half, we kind of keep him in check. And then the second half, they just start ripping him off. And suddenly we're gassed and we're on the road. We don't have the juice and we start losing the battle. Or, the other option is that it looks like the Purdue game where Mockabee had nowhere to go. Tyrone Tracy had nowhere to go. And we were just mopping them the whole game, And so there's two different outcomes there. I mean, even the Illinois game as well, like where the defense just looked amazing.
Northwestern?
Right. So obviously, the other question is we're on the road. Are we getting the Illinois road performance from the defense? Or are we getting the Michigan State road performance from the defense? Because if we're getting the Michigan State one, we're losing this game for sure. And so there are just a lot of different X factors here. Caden Fajan against Wisconsin had a lot of success and ripped off some really nice runs. But we held Caden Fajan in the Illinois game to 5 carries for 15 yards. I mean, I think the defense, again, could lock them up. And I think we can actually find success here. But like you said, do we trust the offense to not turn the ball over, to give the defense the chances to win the game? And it's hard to imagine that we win this game without some sort of defensive points. Right now, again, the line being 6.5 right now or 5.5 is not great. That doesn't feel good. I think the line makes sense. And can we move the ball enough on the ground? I think we could move the ball on the ground. Like, this could be a game where we actually do find yardage, very similar to last game. It's not like we struggled to move the ball last week. It's just that we turned the ball over every time we had the chance to score. And so, man, do you think Satterfield learned his lesson?
No, of course not. We continue to do the same things over and over again. It's just heartbreaking. No, of course we haven't learned.
We had 183 rushing yards last week, and Emmett Johnson averaged about 5 a carry. Purdy had success. Sims had some success.
They all had success running. All of our QBs
against a good running defense, and it's a better running. It was debatably a better running defense right now on paper than Wisconsin's when it comes to statistic performance, at least. Do I think there's opportunity here? Yes. Do I have the confidence to pick Nebraska to win on the road after 9 straight losses to Wisconsin? Which, to be fair, that doesn't really matter this year, considering it's 2 different head coaches. But considering the turnover tendency, considering Satterfield, considering all of these X factors at quarterback, 3 quarterbacks who no one trusts. Harburg's hurt. Purdy has a groin injury. Who's going to start? Does it matter to you?
I think it's Purdy because, again, he has less turnover. He had the 1 pick versus Sims had 3. I don't know. If Harburg's healthy, you start Harburg again. That's what I think.
If he's healthy enough, you probably start Harburg.
Yeah.
And then you just run the ball. That's what I would do. You start Harburg, and then all you do is run the ball. But
again, the best formula is a ton of run plays and 11 passes. It was the best offensive performance we had.
Yeah. So all of those things to say, I'm going to pick Nebraska to lose the game. I'm probably going to pick them. We did see Wisconsin stall a lot in the red zone. So I'm going to go 16-10 and a Nebraska cover on the 6-point spread. But it doesn't feel good by any means. And there's a lot of ways it could go wrong. I mean, I'll take the under on the points all day. I mean, continually under on these points.
With Nebraska, yeah.
And so we'll see what happens. It's going to be ugly. And so hopefully you guys drop your comments down below here on your biggest X factor and your score prediction for the game. Shout out, by the way,
OG Hawk.
OG Hawk X1 with the winning prediction last week, 21-10 Maryland. Things you hate to see, but he was correct. Barely edged out my prediction win. So, I mean, I'll take a second place. It's fine. But as always, guys, drop your comments down below. We appreciate you guys for hanging out with us. But as always, guys, I'm Josh. That's Caleb. This has been Big Red Homestead. And guys, we'll see you next time. Of course,
go Big Red.
Big Red.